Welcome to another live stream, my friends. Bitcoin has been climbing nicely the last couple of days, but will we see an actual breakout soon? And that being said, which way will that breakout be? I wouldn't be too surprised to see Bitcoin coil up a little bit longer here, but I've got currently a couple of levels on my radar for both the bullish and bearish scenarios, just kind of planning ahead a little bit. So when the price action comes, I don't feel stressed out wondering where the price action came from and looking for reasoning and that sort of thing. I want to be prepared ahead of time. So guys, in my last stream, I basically had this little bit of a triangle mapped out on the 4-hour chart. So far, we're still coiling up in there, right? Before we get some sort of a breakout, I would really like to get a third exact touch point followed by a break and retest. Something like that. I would love to play a breakout long position on something like that, because that is a pattern that I would be interested in playing. But that's mostly if we get that third touch point before that breakout. Just to give a little more confirmations that this is in fact a valid trend line, because as it stands, 2 touch points isn't really anything too crazy. And that is the exact same with the bottom side of things, right? So I would like to either, if looking to play a breakout to the upside, I would like to see a third touch point followed by the breakout. Much like on the downside, I would like to see a third touch point followed by a breakout. Other than that, not really interested in trading the patterns until I see something like that happen. But as it stands right now, and that's the thing too, this is looking very much so like an asymmetric triangle. So it's not even favoring one direction, really. It just seems like we're coiling up, really bouncing off the Stuber fibs, you guys. Like, I mean, those of you in my Telegram, those of you guys who have been in these live streams and were made aware of this long position I took down here because of this Stuber fib here. Much like on the opposite end of things where people ended up getting blindsided again here, was if we had a fib somewhere in there, notice where we ended up getting rejected in that same pocket. So we're just kind of forming a very even channel or range to just kind of getting tighter and tighter. So I wouldn't really expect anything too crazy to happen today, honestly, just because it is Saturday. It's Saturday volume trading. I wouldn't really expect volatility to really kick into gear until maybe a couple hours before the weekly open, kind of a thing. So tomorrow evening might be something worth looking at. Things could start really picking up around then. But as it stands, I mean, on the lower time frames, we do have some potential resistance here. You can see that I am in a little bit of a scalp off this 886, just a typical Stuber fib scalp type of setup here. But being that with the MDX Trendmaster, we already got a higher buy signal, I'm taking that as a serious warning. So I've already bumped my stop loss to break even, because I am just treating this as a scalp. My bigger long positions, my swing trades, are the ones from my actual swing levels, right, with Bitcoin and as well Aster. You guys in my last stream, at the end of the stream, we did take a look at Aster, and those of you guys in my Telegram channel were actually notified about the trade that I was taking on with Aster. I did have more entries that never did end up filling, but that is okay. And guys, if that is something that interests you, you just want to take a look at the charts for what they are and take more examples of how I pull Fibonacci's, how I look at market structure, all that sort of good stuff. Just my overall thoughts on the market in general. Do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code, get into the channel there, because guys, all of these major moves, none of them really came as too much of a surprise. It was very basic chart structure, basically, as long as you can really zoom out and take a look at things with a level head. And guys, on top of that, if the Telegram has got your interests at all, I also do have an open Discord at this point, which does give all of my signals as well. The exact same posts that are going into my Telegram, they are also getting shared on the Discord. However, there is a 3-day delay there. So if you want the real-time signals, you got to get in my Telegram. But if you just want a sneak peek, you can definitely check out my Discord as well. But yeah, guys, other than that, what's happening with the market structure? Nothing too crazy on the 5-minute. Like I said, we have this potential Stuber fib, but something working against it is the MDX Trendmaster indicator, just pointing that the trend is still to the upside. So I am taking that warning fairly seriously. However, I do have some take profits set at my typical take profit levels if we end up getting it. Honestly, even if we go a little bit higher, and this is one reason why I think we absolutely could go higher as is just that's obviously a fairly small range inside of a bigger range. And if I pull a fib something like this from the actual high of this, basically from the last touch point of that triangle I was talking about, if we pull a fib from there down something like so, you can see that my once again my 786 886 Fibonacci pocket lines up with that third touch point of that triangle that I was talking about. If we want to start considering breaking the upside, I would like to test that again, and that would be perfect. Right now it would line up in that fib pocket, so I'm not closed off to the idea that we could pump a little bit higher in the next couple of days and test that sort of resistance as well. So just another reason why I'm proceeding with caution on that scalp, basically. But yeah, honestly, not looking too bad at this point. I still see very strong reasons for both the bullish and bearish side of things. For one, just how we're consolidating asymmetrically, as well bringing up the liquidations. You guys, there is liquidations on either side of the price action right now. We have a ton of liquidity no matter where you look. We have these high leverage liquidations right all the way back up to testing all-time highs once again. So that's absolutely not off the table. If I was a market maker, that level would be on basically a level of interest for me. If I was trying to grab some liquidity, there is some up there, and that would be a perfect retest of resistance once again after we broke a very serious uptrend, right? So often after you break structure like that, you still end up getting a nice big retracement. And if that's going to be the case, it would make sense because there is liquidity up there. That being said, if anything ends up spooking the markets, we do at least have some liquidity to the downside at this point as well. Sometimes it's very obvious and it's very one-sided, but right now I can honestly see reasons for both. And that's why that triangle pattern is so interesting to me right now. I don't often look at breakout patterns and that sort of thing, but once in a while they'll catch my attention, and this one kind of did, just because of how well it's respecting the Stuber fibs as well and everything. So interesting little pattern there. On the weekly, this could be an interesting close tomorrow. This will obviously close tomorrow evening. So far it is looking like a little bit of a bullish swing fail where we tested slightly below the lows that we had previously, and we reclaimed it very quickly. I still have concerns about this order block here flipping into a breaker block. However, we are still holding that higher low structure on the more macro trend. So again, I can kind of see reasons for both right now. So, but be ready for anything, because guys, if we learned anything from 2 weeks ago when the price ended up doing this, and I mean, let's face it, Bitcoin got off easy compared to the altcoins, but when we saw that massive liquidation event a couple of weeks ago, that should really open our eyes that anything is possible, and to be ready for anything. Basically, be ready to protect yourself. Don't throw risk management out the window. No matter how sure you are of something, anything can happen. So at the very least, protect yourself, right? So even this morning, I had mentioned basically in my Telegram, you guys, that we were starting to trade into resistance here. If nothing else, as a warning that there is starting to be resistance here. And a lot of retail loves getting bullish into resistance. So I just try and be that voice of reason that we have to be careful when we start hitting those resistance levels. And I mean, this indicator, I've been talking about it quite often lately, you guys, is the retail long short indicator. You can see that this indicator basically shows us in real time FOMO kicking in at all the wrong places, right? As we basically people started shorting into support down here, for example, right? We get this little bit of support, we get a double bottom, we see retail start to short this market, and that's what gave us fuel to pump to the upside. So right now it still does look like shorts are on the climb for retail, in which case I could see us testing that upside again, like I was talking about. It does look a little bit like retail longs are starting to come back in. We see this starting to curl to the upside, but it's very early to say with that because, I mean, I can barely see a little bounce there. But if that is something that happens and we see retail starting to long into resistance once again, that would be a big signal to me that the market's going to go to the downside. Just like over here, where retail got very excited that, hey guys, we broke this resistance here. So retail started shorting into that breakout, but just, or rather longing into that breakout, went right when we were at that resistance level, which again was a 786, basically a Stuber fib resistance level that we were at. Look at that indicator below with my dotted line there. You can see that retail literally started longing right there. That's where our longs started to climb, and that's where we ended up seeing our decline in price, right? So if we start to see retail longs stepping in as we get to this resistance, I would expect some sort of a rejection at that point. How do you guys all feel about the market, by the way? If you guys are appreciating these live streams with me here, trying to keep a level head in the market, trying to be the voice of reason in these crazy times, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, you guys. Very much so. This channel, as the title, as the title of this channel is, it's a trading channel, right? It's not based around the hopium. It's not based around the FOMO or the FUD or anything. Just looking at charts for what they are and trading them. Investing and trading are two very different things. But I just want to approach this with a very level head and just looking for those trade setups that match my criteria, basically. So if that does interest you, how I look at market structure, how I'm looking at fibs, and just my overall thoughts on the markets, you guys, like I said earlier, do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code or click the link in the description down below. Get in there, see how I look at market structure. And as mentioned, there is also that Discord, right? If you just want a sneak peek, these signals will be a few days late just because it's a sneak peek, but it is all my signals from the Telegram. So it's full transparency. Yeah. How do you guys all feel about the market? Do you think it's over? Do you think we're just getting started? How is everybody feeling out there, my friends? Love to see so many familiar faces here, by the way. Hurley, good to see you here. Tube Dog. Well, and even some new faces, you guys. Just thank you all for being here with me. Hopefully you guys are appreciating this analysis. Like I said, trying to be the voice of reason out there because, man, there is some very, very strong emotions out there when the markets are so volatile like this. And that's where I always say that, try and keep trading as simple as you can. That's why I really love basic market structure and Fibonacci's. That is basically, it goes a long ways, right? Just to keep a level head, keep those emotions out of it, being able to ignore the noise a little bit. It's, keeping everything the more simple you can is the better, because if you really think that it's going to be easier to gain an edge by understanding and properly analyzing the entire global economy versus a few colorful lines, I got bad news for you. Charts, the thing is, those fundamentals, I know a lot of people always give me grief about this, that, you say that fundamentals don't matter. That's not true. You are correct. You are correct. Fundamentals do matter, but trying to trade those and thinking that you have early information and, all that sort of stuff, that's where I don't agree with fundamental analysis. As far as investing, absolutely. And does it control the market? Absolutely. But trying to trade it is incredibly difficult to get an edge. And that's where charting comes in handy, right? That's where the actual trade setups come from, is in the chart side of things. So that's why I more so focus on that. I'm not saying the fundamentals don't matter. I'm just saying there's a lot of room to make mistakes analyzing that sort of thing as well. And that's why I would always just look at the charts instead, because it's something that we can backtest, right? We can go to our replay feature on Tradingview, and we can go back and backtest any sort of trade setup we have. If we think, hey, I have this set of rules, I want to see how often it plays out, I'm going to go backtest several years of data. I mean, that's what we should all be doing when taking trade positions. basically. If you have no idea where you're planning to take profits, where your invalidations are, what your probabilities are of your trade setup to play out, kind of a thing, um, honestly, those trades shouldn't be taken unless you have all those things on your radar already. And again, that's why I love pulling Fibonacci's. All my levels are here. My entries are here. My invalidations here. My take profits are here. It's all here. That's why I love it, because it's very systematic. It's easy to repeat. It's easy to keep emotions out of it. And that's what we need in the game of trading. But as far as Bitcoin itself, you guys, I mean, nothing has really changed. I don't think anything too crazy is going to happen till, like I said, maybe closer to the weekly candle close. Maybe we'll see something crazy happen. But as it stands right now, everything's just kind of moving sideways a little bit. Like I said, my Aster position, I still feel comfortable about this one, mostly because I have taken a quarter of my profits already, and my stop is in a small profit at this point anyways. But it just kind of looks like it's trading sideways over the weekend. We're still holding support. So I'm protected either way, because as always, when I end up taking a trade position, or when I take a position, I'm always paying myself along the way and then updating my stop losses, because I'm not married to the idea, right? If Aster decides it wants to nuke right to zero, I don't care, because I'm just looking to play the charts for what they are, and my trade setups and invalidations are in place. I hope you guys are not only surviving, but also thriving in these conditions, you guys, because it has been so volatile. I mean, even though we're basically trading sideways the last couple days here, but these ranges are massive. Ever since we had that high volatility event a couple of weeks ago, that really sparked volatility. And that's why people now think that the price is being manipulated and stuff, is because we see those sharp corrections when we hit resistance, for example. But that's very natural. It's all natural price action. It's just a lot bigger ranges than we're used to, because that breakout caused such a big range to be at play here. And that's why, I mean, even looking for resistance, right? Another reason why I think we could go higher is because if we end up breaking out of this triangle, the bearish Stuber fib setup from our all-time highs would be up starting a little bit above 120,000 US dollars. Right. That's where I would start to expect that, resistance could kick in at any point, basically. If we get the exact same thing as the last couple of large rejections, then I would expect us to get up into our swing fail zone. But that's between 126 and 130K, basically. But there's basically, no matter how we look at it, Bitcoin just has a lot of work to do right now. It doesn't look like all hope is lost by any means, but there is resistance ahead no matter how we look at it. And even on the shorter time frames, just looking like we're trying to respect this little bit of a Stuber box that I had mentioned. When I ladder into a trade, let's say using $100, what percent do you put at each level, and what does your entry end up closest to? So that depends. If it's something I'm not too, basically the average one, I just split up my entry into 4. Like usually I will take about a quarter of it at the 786, quarter at the 886, a quarter at the 1, and a quarter very just front running the 115 a little bit. And that kind of pulls my average entry to somewhere in between the 886 and the 1, basically. If I'm feeling like things are a little extra volatile, or I have a little more patience, or I just feel like it's a little riskier, in that case, I will often wait until an actual swing fails. So let's say I was looking for resistance up here somewhere. I would consider putting an alert there. And if we get a little swing fail where we test up, but then lose that level, that's where I would basically be looking to short the retest and laddering in all my positions basically in that pocket, having my average entry very close to the invalidation. So it really depends on the setup, right? If I'm playing a Stuber fib setup, I will often do it the 25 or a quarter. Or if it's extra volatile, sometimes I'll do like 20%, 20%, 30%, 30%. It really depends what the market conditions are like. But I would never put my heaviest entries at the beginning. I'll tell you that, because that is the worst way to try and bring your average entry up. If you have lighter entries up here, I would always like my heavier entries closer to my invalidation, basically, to help pull that average entry if we're going to get them all. Cheers, Stu. Question: is the long short indicator from MDX? So yeah, that's actually not even one of the indicators on TradingView. It's actually on the dashboard, like on the MDX ALGO website. I think you still need an account on there, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's actually not even on TradingView. It's on just on the dashboard here. Yeah, Hurley, that's a good point. Volatility is there, but no strong trend. And that's why you're out of a position right now. Honestly, man, that's not a terrible idea because you are absolutely correct. There is not a strong trend right now. If anything, I would be favoring the bearish trend right now, but I still think that we could go higher, is the thing. Like, as far as looking for a swing short position right now, we're kind of in the middle of a range. And that goes for the long side too. I mean, it's not really the type of place I'd be looking for a position to really get married into, right? I'd be more so any positions I'm taking right now, just like the scalp I was talking about, I'm treating it like a scalp. And if it turns into a runner with half the position, fantastic. But as it stands right now, I'm very quick to update my positions, basically. Any scalps I'm taking, anything like that, just because I think it's very possible. Either direction is possible. We're kind of in the middle of a big range, so it's risky looking for a longer term play. But anyways, my friends, I really don't, like I said earlier, I really don't expect a heck of a lot to happen over the next day or two. Well, maybe closer to the weekly close, like I said, but I really think the rest of today, even early tomorrow, I'm not expecting a ton. So that's kind of all I really wanted to go over today. Just be careful out there, you guys. Like I said, there is strong cases to be made for both sides. But as far as playing trade setups and looking for active trades, I mean, just play the charts for what they are and remember to play what time frame you're trading. If you're looking at the 5-minute chart, maybe don't be assuming that position is going to play out for several hours or days or anything like that. Just remember that the shorter time frame you're on, the quicker those positions are going to play out, and the smaller they're going to be as well, right? So just make sure you protect yourself, you're updating your positions and that sort of thing. When you find a runner, great, but don't forget to pay yourself along the way. And again, protect yourself. That's the most important thing, right? But yeah, like I said earlier, you guys, for those of you who do appreciate these live streams, you appreciate me going over some of my personal trade strategies, how I pull my fibs, all that sort of stuff, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as well, those of you who want more examples and you want to see my signals in real time, do yourselves a favor and scan the QR code on the screen as well. And as I mentioned, there is also a link in the description down below for my open Discord, which gives all those signals as well. And but there is that delay because it's a sneak peek, so you're just getting them about 3 days later. But yeah, with that, my friends, I will hopefully probably closer to the weekly candle close. I'm hoping to do a live stream tomorrow, especially if volatility starts picking up again. But with that, I'm out.